It's a pretty silly looking hat. What's going on, everyone? Back with Project IJ. If you didn't see the first episode, I went over what Project IJ was, which is a downloadable 3D printable body set that you can put on a number of platforms. And I've chosen the VS410 and I've done the H10 axle swap along with it. So we've got a VS410 chassis, H10 axles on it, and the 3D printed Project IJ body resting on top of it. Now, since you've seen it last, not much has changed to the body other than the fact that I did do the 3D printed rock slider area and I did install the hinges for the hood. That's about all as far as what is shown here as far as what's different. Now, since then, I have done a lot of staring, I've done a lot of looking and designing and some fabricating. I'll kind of let you know what our next steps are. Now, one thing that I do want to do is get these tires swapped off. These are the 4.5 inch Geolandar X-ATs from Vanquish, and I want to go to a 4.75. So I want to get that done because there's a couple of things that I do want to look at. I'm going to pull the body off. Now, I did the H10 axle swap, as we mentioned, which does a servo on axle, and you can kind of see that setting right there. Now, I did the 3D printed front shock towers that are included with that H10 axle swap set, and they're bulky and they're big. I don't necessarily love the look of them, and they take up a lot of room inside of the chassis, which interferes with the servo as it moves. So I'm gonna get rid of those. And you can actually use, I was told, the standard stock VS410 shock towers, which I think are a better use for this case anyway. It's going to give us a lot of clearance back as well. So there's no benefit for me using these 3D printed towers, I don't feel. So those are going to go. I'll get that swapped out today. Now, another thing with the servo on axle up here is that it does have the servo wire output very close to the spur gear because of the difference in this chassis versus the actual H10 that this is, these link sets and these axles are normally designed for. So the clearance is pretty tight there. Now I could do some wire management and it'll probably be just fine, but I could also just install a stubby kit to the VFD transmission, which would give me a ton of room. And if I run one of these new Hobbywing Outrunner setups, there wouldn't be any problem with doing that. I don't really see a reason why I shouldn't go that route, so I think that I might. In the first episode, I talked that I want to do a steel cage. That's my big push. That was kind of the reason that I'm building this truck, because I have a new welder here that I need to review, and I wanted a fun project for it, so that's what kind of manifested this thing to happen. Now, I got the design of that done, and then I started in on the design of the fixturing and templates, and I finished that last night and got it 3D printed here. Now this is what I actually put all of my tubes in, and then I weld the cage right in these 3D printed fixtures. Works really well. I've done it with a number of projects. If you've never seen any of my build-alongs, there's something that I distribute to people, and they're able to build their own projects without all that much extra effort. It makes things way simpler. And I took that same approach with this so that you'll be able to weld up a cage for one of these projects super easy, because you've got the fixture to put everything in, and then you also have templates for every tube that is either bent or straight. So you know exactly the length and the bend, everything about it you have in templates and fixtures. Just makes everything super easy. So I got all of that done, and I'm ready to start the fab side of that very soon. Now, along with this, I designed some laser cut steel parts that are a companion to it. They are what will allow this thing to be able to be easily mounted into the chassis, or into the body, chassis combined. So I do need to wait for those to arrive. I sent those off to Send yesterday as well, so hopefully we see those here shortly so that I can get this whole thing done, which will be exciting. Speaking of Send and laser cut parts, I'm also doing the body armor out of some laser cut. Now, this is CNC milled. I've got a small desktop home CNC here. It's called the Makera Carvera Air, and it allows me to design this up, cut it out of some aluminum here in-house, and verify that my design is good. I got these cut out. I did both sides. I'm gonna get those installed today. These are the versions that go here, and they'll get wrapped around that back corner. And then I'll cut the front ones as well. I'll make sure that these are available for you guys as well if you're after it. I need to do the hood one also, and I totally forgot about that. So I'll add that to my list. I might still be able to get that in on this video. So first things first, let's tackle some of the easy things. I need to get the tires swapped, and I want to get these body armor panels bolted onto the chassis, and then we'll come back, see what else we can get done in this video.
You need some help with something. I thought, you know, given our relationship, you might be cool. When you jump up and you got freaked out by her. Remember that kid came over and he stole my hand?
All right, so got the armor put on the back portion. That worked out well, so I went quickly and designed up the other pieces of armor, and I got those cut out on the CNC. Now, if you're not familiar with that CNC, it's a Carvera Air. That's the one I've been using for a little while now. Works really well. They're also releasing a new Z1, which is a miniature version of that, so it's like less than $1,000. You know, it's got its restrictions based on size and power, but it is a very handy machine to have at home if you're interested in kind of learning to machine your own parts. So be able to knock out something like this in 20 minutes is a bonus. So I'm going to get these armor pieces bolted on now. The other thing that I'm using, if you saw, this little Vanquish electric screwdriver for these super tiny little 1.4 screws. This thing is perfect. Came in this little setup. I got it off Amazon. I'll put a link down in the description if you guys are interested. I'm gonna get the rest of this armor bolted on now. All right, so we've got all of the armor on now, all the quarters. These front panels fit great, as well as the hood. Now, I did a brushed finish on them, but I do need to do a wipe down with some alcohol or mineral spirits, give it one final brush just to give everything a super, like even brushed feel. Not too worried about where the bolts go. We'll make it all work, no problem. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that went overall. Tell you, having that little driver is a must. Trying to put all those little screws in by hand would be a nightmare. So from here, a couple of like I did put the BFG crawlers on. I left them on the 2.2 Battleborn Sierra wheels. I think I like that look, the 1.9 tires on the 2.2 wheel. I did put Vanquish 2-stage foams in there to make sure that I had enough support. This is, you know, for stretching a setup, having an actual foam works easier unless you have like a very specific 3D printed insert, which, you know, I don't really care for the 3D printed inserts as much. So anyway, now what I wanted to look at once I had the 475 tires on was clearance at full lock and full articulation. Now you can see I've got probably like 8 or 9 millimeters, maybe 10 millimeters of clearance in there, which does mean that if I want, I could shorten the front links up a little bit to knock this amount of stretch that it has down a little bit. And I think that I'll probably do that. It will take mean that I need custom links for that. And the upper links probably need a hair of a bend to clear the chassis really well anyway. So I'm kind of fine with doing that. So I think that stretch, while it looks pretty decent, it's a little more extreme than I think that I really want to be. So I'll bring that in a little bit here in the next coming episodes. Now, one of the other things that I don't care for as much is how much bumper or frame rail, more specifically, is sticking out past the grill, and it drops down. So one of the tasks that I'm going to do for this project is I'm going to cut the chassis off just at or just behind the grill. And then I'm going to make a bumper set that attaches on the chassis side and comes forward. And that will then give me a tighter, higher clearance bumper in the front. So that's going to take some design work, some laser cut parts from Send Cut Send, and a little bit of fab to get it exactly where I want. But I think that's going to improve everything as far as performance and styling goes on this by quite a bit. That, again, gonna have to come in following episodes. Now, I am ready to start the fabrication of the cage. Again, I have to wait for the laser cut parts to arrive, but I can get bending on the tubing. I can even start tacking some of the stuff together. It would be best if I had the laser cut parts before it because of how I designed some of these fixtures, but I can make do. I know the limitations. I can make do, and that's fine. So I think that's going to be my next step. However, I think that I'm going to make the cage video on this its own episode entirely. So that is likely what you will see next. You'll see the video covering that, as well as a video for that new Arc Captain 200 AC/DC welder, which both will have some of that content inside of it. So if you're looking forward to that, make sure you hit subscribe and watch for following videos. And speaking of that, if you're not subscribed already, make sure and hit the subscribe button. Channel membership's available in case you want to see these videos early. Always an option. You also get additional behind the scenes videos, times, Afternoons Delight, all that kind of stuff. Help support the channel a little bit extra. If you're interested in that, there's information down in the description. Impatiently, I did some of the stuff, the jig, without the laser cut parts, just because I want to see, I've got to modify the dash. Dash is out. The reason I have to modify the dash is because where they bolt the cage in, I need to pass all the way through there because we're going all the way to the floor, because I feel like that's the realistic way to do it. So this is going to sit in here. This is going to be here. Yes. Now, these tubes here, my B pillars, those I didn't have in the fixtures yet, or I didn't have my templates in yet, so those are just kind of an estimate. But what I like is that we're right up against the windshield. We're following the angles properly. That's what I hate if you can see like a 1/8 inch, 3/16 gap in between your cage and your windshield. You just didn't build it good enough. Now, I need to wait for the laser cut parts to arrive before I can actually build one of these, like for real. This one is basically just going to be a test piece. Maybe I'll be able to get it completely welded up and finished, but more than anything, it was just a test. So once I get the laser pieces in there, those really get, fabricated in during the welding process rather than after. It's kind of a whole thing that goes together, but this is great. I mean, that gap right there, spot on. I can't wait to add some of the other detail bars and things like that, but looking proper. Can't wait for the final product on this. I'm absolutely loving the progress. The cage fab on this will be its own episode, probably the next one. And at that time, you'll also be able to pick up the cage download in case you want to build it yourself. Looking forward to that. I have a number of things to get buttoned up. I'll try and also get the armor added. And if you're interested in the front bumper project, that'll be another one as well. But a number of things to get done. And this thing, is turning out good. Lots of things to get done still, but overall, super happy with the progress. If you want to keep following along, make sure and hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already. Channel membership if you want to see these videos early. If I didn't say that already, it's been a long day of a lot of filming, but with that, that's going to do it for this episode of the Project IJ. Looking forward to the next one. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you then.